out time. Oh, there's the bell. Dina waited out time.
The former world champion of chessboxing, Matt Thomas, marked this as the match of the night. Dina Belenkaya versus Andrea Botez in Ludwig's Mogul Chessboxing Championship. I spent the weekend in Dina Belenkaya's corner, so I'm going to give you a little bit of the behind-the-scenes breakdown of what happened and an analysis of the chess game as well. So let's get into it. This was the perfect juxtaposition of two competitors. You have Dina, who's stronger in chess. You have Andrea, who's stronger in fitness. And you even have the two entrances that were completely different in style. Let's take a look. Yeah, the classic Twitch clip.
Weighing 135 pounds.
Followed by the entrance.
Botez!
On Alex Botez. It was coming out looking like the girl from The Ring. And yeah, once she finally gets down.
Down she goes, and hype as ever coming into the ring is Andrea.
You have the whole Botez family just having a good time.
Going into this.
Both sisters and Papa Botez in the back there.
Dad in the background having a great time. The Botez family has showed up in full force. The Canadians showing their Canadian colors here today.
On the flip side of all that goofiness and that hype,
fighting out of the black corner.
You have Dina.
5'5", weighing 125 pounds. Dina!
Super serious, dead focused.
Has a sharp tongue.
The immortal dancers coming out.
To all of the competitors today, and Andrea most importantly, looking fierce.
Slow, calm, collected. There I am,
Jabberwockies are back.
trying to pump up the crowd. And right there, I'm pumping it up. Just a quick side note. Eric, the CEO of Chess.com, I think that's his head right there. I accidentally locked eyes with him and screamed in his face, but hopefully there's no hard feelings there. I talked to him before and after this, and it was great. I was in the moment, but Dina's just calm, cool, collected. I'm trying to bring some energy, you know, and she's ready to go. And listen to what their commentators say.
Botez's did, or you like this one?
This one's chilling, man.
Yeah.
And you can see that half Russian in her, that dead stare. She is ready for anything that comes.
Yeah, I think the walkouts definitely fit the personalities.
So you can already tell the commentators are trying to play off the storyline. The Russian comes to America, and it's Russian versus North American and Andrea, and it's going to be Rocky style themed, and it's going to be a crazy one. So let's get into the actual chess. Andrea Botez is playing with the white pieces and plays d4. She's very, very well known for playing the London, and that's her like one singular opening with white. But in the weigh-in stream, the day before this happened, Andrea stated to Dina live on stream she was not going to play the London. She had something else cooked up for her. So they were already playing tons of mind games, tons of trash talk before this event even started. But d4 on the board, Dina plays knight f6, and she goes for d6. And she goes with this h6 idea, and you're like, wait, okay, well, d6 and h6 against the London, how many times has this been seen? In the master database, this has been played twice, according to chess.com. Like, what? What in the world? She's going for a little bit of a sideline to get Andrea out of her prep and play into a different line so that Andrea has to be the one thinking and coming up with resources. And guess what? h6? No, we're going full in with g5 as well, backing the bishop up, and then fianchettoing. And you might be like, are these pawns overextended? Are they weaknesses in the long term? Well, I mean, it's up to both players to prove either point, right? But for now, Black's got some extra space, and now she brings in the knight to try and get rid of that London bishop. And Andrea, meanwhile, just continues developing. Dina does the same. And if you look at the board, I mean, this is literally the absolute most common, like, London setup, right? This is the London system. You play a lot of the same moves. You know, a lot of times beginners try to ignore what Black's doing, but obviously the better players, such as Andrea, won't be ignoring what Black's doing. But, you know, for all intents and purposes, Andrea's probably gotten everything she's wanted in the setup. But then Dina just plays e6, and Andrea goes for e4, going and saying, I'm going to go and take control of the center. But it's important to remember every single pawn break comes with a concession. So yes, Andrea now has more control over some central squares, but she also gives up control of the f4 square, so the knight's able to gallop in. And when Andrea takes, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, because now Black, sure, they have doubled f-pawns, But at the same time, black has a semi-open G file, and there might be some sort of way to transfer pieces and attack on an open G file at a later point. But for now, we get queen e2, bishop d7, a4, a5, both players trying to stop each other from progressing, and after knight jumps forward, queen e7, and the bell rings. The first round of chess has ended. Let's take a look at what happened in the first round of the boxing.
Say break,
You have the ref here.
say stop,
They're trying to
you
say
stop.
touch hands.
Touch hands if you want. We're gonna have a good clean fight. We're gonna go back to your corner.
Both players
Touch hands. Touch hands. Touch hands.
so focused.
you wanna touch hands?
They refuse to
Okay,
touch.
back to your corners.
Finally, they
Back
do
to your
it.
corners. Back to your corners.
They're so laser focused they can't even hear the ref.
Judge, ready?
So the entire arena starts like going crazy. They're like, "Oh my gosh, like what it like this is like some bad blood." They've heard all the trash talking. A lot of the people don't know that they were friends before this, and they're not willing to touch hands. Like, what's happening here? But for now, I'm gonna skip all the way to the end of the first round.
Final seconds of the round coming up.
Last few seconds, Andrea's the one chasing. Dina's kind of just fending her off.
Surviving that boxing
Even when they
round
go
is
to the corners,
Dina. Clear advantage
you can
to
see a
Andrea,
clear
not even
difference.
breathing heavy as she goes back to her corner. The body language of the two fighters.
This reminds
Super
me of
tired.
the second
Dina literally told me, she said that after the first 90 seconds, she realized that she just forgot to breathe during the entirety of the boxing round. And it's very interesting because you're like, okay, well, it's chess boxing. One affects the other and vice versa. So how is Dina's fatigue going to impact her chess? Well, let's take a look. In the second round of chess, Dina wastes basically no time putting pressure on. D5. Hitting the knight, and you're like, wait, why can't I just take the pawn? Because it's a discovered check on the king, and then white's gonna lose the knight. Terrible, right? So instead, of course, white doesn't do that. Instead, Andrea moves her knight back, and after Dina takes, the bishop takes. Now f5, bishop moves back, and now e5, d5, and e4. If we look at the last several moves, like look at how aggressive Dina is being. She's like, I will take a part in the center, and then when you get out of the center, I'm gonna take in the center and continue pushing. Like everything is just a pawn push. Even when Andrea tries to hit a counter punch in the chess portion, Dina's like, I'm gonna counter your counter and push e4. So Andrea tries to get out of this by simply castling. And the issue with this is that she's castling straight into this attack. Remember when I said the G file is a semi-open file? It's not looking good. And what Andrea needed to do is actually long castle. Castling was the right idea to get out of the action, but the computer thinks that long castling gives you the best opportunity to survive. Instead, we get this, and the only move that continues the attack properly is knight to e5, saving the knight and also bringing more pieces to the action over here. And Andrea decides to not trade pieces. She knows she's trying to win in the boxing, not on the chess at this point, because things start going much more south from here. F3, and it looks really scary. Apparently, you're supposed to just take and just hope for the best, but that looks incredibly scary with a super open G file. So instead, Andrea tries to close the position with G3. But there's holes. There's holes in the position. Look at the light squares. There's so many holes in white's pawn structure on their king side. And after h5, Dina is coming. She is coming to knock on that king's door. Andrea jumps in with a knight, and Dina plays bishop h6. And the idea of bishop h6 is that she is going to be hitting the queen with tempo. After the queen moves, is going to be transferring all her pieces to attack the king on this side of the board. But at this point, the bell rings, so we get into the second round of boxing. And keep in mind that Andrea, despite being younger than Dina, has many more years of focusing on her fitness than Dina has. And you can see that come through in the second round as cardio starts playing a big role. So let's take a look at the last 10 to 15 seconds of this round.
Jab, keeping her opponent away, intelligently defending, good stuff.
She's got to keep the gloves up.
good though. This is good, Jake.
Not that much
Big
up
hook
left.
lands on the ear of Dina.
Dina's looking.
Pushing into the corner.
Oh!
Up against the ropes.
15 seconds left,
Off in the
Andrea.
head.
Keep up the pressure. 10 seconds.
Oh!
All right.
And time.
So basically, you can tell Dina's getting pretty tired. She's feeling it, but Andrea still looking fresh over there. Ignore whatever this hooligan's doing. In fact, let's change it. You can tell Dina's pretty gassed, and it didn't really affect her playing the first round of chess, but how is it going to affect her around in the third round of chess? So how's Dina's chess affected? Well, Andrea backs up the queen, and then Dina plays queen g5. She's hanging a fork. And Andrea forks the king and the rook, so all of a sudden this knight can check the king, and then on the next move, take the rook. And here I am just panicking because I'm just trying to scream my face off and support Dina. I'm not like actually able to analyze the chess that closely. And yeah, I was wearing this shirt. So I was like, oh my God, I just jinxed Dina. Like, I'm going to have to like take the shirt off and burn it. But fortunately, I realized that Dina is actually a genius because after King F7, you cannot take that. It is not free. No free rooks from Dina Belenkaya. Instead, she would just simply checkmate you on G2. So Andrea's like, okay, I need to do something about that. Slides the king over. After a couple more moves, a check, she slides the rook over because she's like, I'm about to get checkmated, right? And at this point, Andrea starts doing a little bit of stalling because knight G4 is a killer threat. She's threatening checkmate, right? So Andrea, knowing that there's mate on H2, sacrifices a knight because she's just trying to get to the next round of boxing. And here there is a checkmate on the board. Pause this off. It's mate in 1. With a matter of seconds left on the clock, Dina could have found knight takes F2, but she is pressing on Andrea's clock because she knows that Andrea only has 39 seconds left. Dina Belenkaya snap takes that knight back. It's crazy because now Andrea, with 39 seconds left, seeing mate coming, she gives a check over here. The king moves immediately, and Andrea's clock is ticking down, but she stalls until the bell rings. And just to show you, it's pretty good acting. I'm not saying this because I'm like salty or anything. Obviously, I'm Team Dina, and I'm very, very biased. But the general strategy was Andrea was going to stall in chess, and Dina was going to stall and grapple and hug in boxing, right? So I'm just calling it as it is, and yeah, just check this clip out.
Oh, that was smart. She took the pawn, so the knight. Wait, but Dina missed mate in 1.
There's a check.
All right, so that's the last move. There's
You can do
16,
another check.
17 seconds left on the
She
clock.
might need to do this check here.
Look
Again,
at this
30 seconds on
acting.
the clock.
Look at this
Couple
acting.
moves ago, when the
I mean,
knight
hey,
took the
props.
pawn, knight takes pawn
You gotta
was mate.
compete.
Only 8 seconds. Are we going to see another boxing round?
You have to compete. And hey, look, she's competing, doing her part, right? Burns off 16 seconds of the clock, and we go into a final round of boxing. So this is the final crack at a KO, and Andrea had to either literally knock out Dina or get 3 standing counts, which would result in a technical knockout. Long story short, there's a lot of controversy. I'm going to show you the very, very end, and we'll talk about it then. 15 seconds left to get one more standing count.
The killing blow! Andrea!
He's like, oh, nope,
10
actually, nope,
seconds.
just we're
Will
good.
she deliver the killing blow and win, or will she lose to checkmate?
Separate.
There's 5 seconds left.
5 seconds,
Oh my
5
God.
seconds.
And in the same.
So, just for the record here, I don't know much about boxing, but I think he was trying to figure out, does he need to separate them? Does he need to do a standing count? He couldn't quite tell. Meanwhile, what you're about to see, Brandon, the coach, grabbing the top rope, me grabbing the top rope and shaking it, I also don't think it's legal. But hey, what's done is done. And but yeah, just check out what happens because there's a lot of controversy around this. But again, it goes back to what I was saying. Like, I mean, Andrea was clearly stalling in the chess round. Dina was hugging and grappling in the boxing, and then I don't know enough about chess boxing rules to figure out what happened here.
Way, but Andrea waited out time. Oh, there's the bell. Dina waited out time, survived the round, and we're going back to chess.
The crowd's
Oh
booing.
my gosh.
Wow, in the crowd. Now it's possible that Dina might not play as sharp. We already saw her with a couple of blunders.
No, it's over.
You think?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Levy.
We'll see.
Can a fighter to the end?
6 seconds. Andrea waiting out the clock. She knows what's about to happen.
And she resigns. She has resigned the game with checkmate
There
incoming.
it is, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for your winner by checkmate, Dina Bad Bishop Belenkaya. What a match coming down to the final seconds.
What an absolute end to the fight. It was an absolute seesaw going back and forth between who had the advantage in chess versus the time versus boxing versus time. And yeah, just in general, I mean, what a cool experience. Thank you to Dina. All of my words I said in this video are all mine. None of them are reflective of her opinions or whatever. And also her coach, Brandon. Super cool guy. And then somewhere in here, you get a good shot of the branding. You can go get the shirt on my Etsy store, link in the description below. Hope you enjoyed this wild, wild ride. Happy learning, everyone.